I've wasted a whole lot of money in my business just so that you don't need to. Hey everyone, my name is Krista, and if you're new here, this is The Slow Creative, a space where I create slow, intentional content to help you build a business that aligns with your values, that feels deeply nourishing and nurturing, and doesn't lead to burnout. In this video, I want to share with you 9 things that I've spent thousands of dollars on over the course of the past 10 years, tens of thousands of dollars on, that are things that I just don't need, or I found that they were not adding any real benefit to my business or making a huge difference. Things that sometimes we're told that would make a big difference in our business will help us be more successful, reach more clients, but I personally have found that that has not been the case. So I am on a mission to simplify my business, simplify the systems that I'm using, and to condense everything so that I'm not overspending and paying for programs and apps and software and all kinds of other things that are not necessary to have a beautiful, inspiring, and fulfilling business. Okay, so the first one is expensive all-in-one platforms. So one of the things that I used to think would be really helpful and to help me simplify is if I paid for a platform, like an all-in-one platform like Kajabi, for instance, that allows you to send emails with their service, have courses, have a website, does payment processing and all of these various things. But what I have found is that programs like Kajabi, they are not only pricey and very expensive, they often come with all the bells and whistles more than most solopreneurs like you and I will ever use or ever need. Even Squarespace is kind of moving more towards the all-one platform sort of model. And what I've noticed is that I can send emails with Squarespace, I can sell digital products, I can have a website, there's the ability to create courses, but I'm not using any of those other things because they either don't work for my business, they're still clunky, they don't have the functionality that I need that's going to make things easy for me. So if you've been looking at an all-in-one platform thinking that this is going to be the answer to all of your problems, you might just want to reconsider and look at everything that it includes and ask yourself, is this something that I'm really going to need? Is this something that I'm going to use? Do I have a system in my business currently that already offers that? Because what I have found is it's often not the answered prayer that you're looking for. The best system is going to be the system that you're going to use. And what I found is that most people are using a combination of things in their business, some paid, some free, because those are the tools that they find the simplest to use. They're the tools that they enjoy using the most. And when we start paying for these all-in-one platforms, we think, oh, this is great, I have everything all in one place, but they're often complicated and really pricey, and the functionality doesn't work as well as other things that you're already using in your business. The second thing that I've stopped wasting money on in my business is overpriced branding services. Before I get into this, I just want to say that I don't have a problem with people spending money on branding or design if that's genuinely something that's in your budget. But from personal experience, here's what I found. In the past, I have spent money on some branding services like logos and things like that. And what I found is within 6 months or even a few months, the logo didn't resonate with me. It didn't really feel like me, or my direction changed slightly, and I ended up spending, hundreds of dollars, in some cases people spending thousands of dollars on a logo, and it just didn't resonate anymore, and I no longer used it. And then I felt guilty for spending all of this money on branding services that I didn't like, that didn't resonate with me, and that I wasn't going to use. So then it kind of stalled me in my business because I was stuck between thinking I needed to use it and not really wanting to use it. As someone who has created Canva templates, pre-designed Canva templates for clients and coaches in the past, I've had so many clients who have spent thousands of dollars on these beautiful, expensive branding packages that the client doesn't even like. The clients come to me and they say, can you change these colors? The designer made these colors. I don't really like that color blue. Can you make it more this color? Can you change this? And I'm like, you've just spent thousands of dollars on this, and it doesn't resonate with them. So I've learned pretty early on in my business, if I can do the branding myself, just keep it very simple, learn a few simple design basics to help my message come through clearly and to help things look beautiful and inspiring and aesthetic. My money is much better spent on just learning a few tricks to do it myself so that I can change out the colors as I need to, I can change fonts, I can feel confident and comfortable doing it, knowing that I'm not tied to any specific color or palette or font or aesthetic because I've paid someone thousands of dollars to do it. Another thing that I've stopped wasting money on in my business is overpriced high-end courses. In the past, this is probably the area that I have wasted the most money on, tens of thousands of dollars on, courses that honestly are collecting dust in my digital bookshelf that I have not even opened, thinking that this again was going to be the answer to all of my prayers. But when it came down to it, the courses were too overwhelming. They didn't directly answer the specific problem that I was dealing with. They were too long or too big that I just felt too overwhelmed to even know where to begin with the course, or I was simply sucked in by a really well-crafted, tricky worded sales page that got me to buy something that I really didn't need. And I know that so many of us business owners are course junkies, and if this is you, I'm a recovering course junkie myself. What I focus on now is I very rarely buy courses anymore, but when I do, they're often short courses that I know will be easy for me to digest, and I know that I'll be able to get through the material. I tend to go for courses that are short or an hour, or I tend to go with creators that I really resonate with because they're teaching something that's just a passion of mine. And I know that the interest and my motivation will be high in me learning this topic because it's something that I'm just genuinely interested in. But I don't spend thousands of dollars on courses. I pretty much avoid any course that is over a couple of $100s. And now I only buy courses that are needed right now in my business that I know I'm going to be implementing right away. Most of the time, the courses that I buy now are under $100. And even that, I tend to only spend maybe about $500 a year on courses and business development. There is so many free resources and access to almost anything that you'd ever want to learn or need to know in terms of growing your business or whatever creative pursuits that are interesting to you now. I actually do pay for a yearly subscription to Skillshare, which I find to be a really great way to learn about a topic in a short amount of time to just get the inspiration flowing. But what I've really learned in my business after 10 years of doing this and growing an online business is that experience is the best way to learn. Getting out there, applying any knowledge that you have, trial and error, and just experimenting with your marketing, just experimenting with what works and what doesn't work is the best way to learn and to grow your business. Another thing that I've stopped wasting money on is paid ads with no strategy. I have to be honest, ads, Facebook ads, paying for any ads has always been an area that I've never really delved into. I've not had an interest to really get into the nitty-gritty details of what makes an ad really successful. I have experimented with ads in the past, and I've spent hundreds of dollars on paid ads trying to get my content out, trying to get word out about a new offering that I have, but it's often just resulted in a bunch of likes and maybe a few comments, but really no real growth for my business. I'm not saying that ad strategies are not a valid method for growing your business and for getting more eyes on your work, but if you're doing so without the true knowledge of how ads work, a true strategy, or without the support of somebody who really understands how to use ads as a tool to help grow your business, I would suggest just going the organic route unless you have money in your budget to pay somebody who has experience with that. Just from my own personal experience, I have not noticed a huge benefit to running ads on Instagram or Facebook to share content, simply because what it's resulted in for me is more superficial engagement versus long-term loyal customers and followers that I'm interested in building with my business. Another thing that I've stopped wasting money on is monthly subscriptions for things that I no longer need. I realized that I was paying for a lot of subscriptions for things that I already had other tools that were one-time membership fees, that were things that I had in my back pocket that I wasn't using, paying for expensive monthly subscription costs, and all of this money was going out the window. An example of this was when I created my first digital course, I decided to use Podia. Every month I was paying like $40 US dollars for Podia, which I absolutely loved this platform for creating courses. I found it easy to use. I found the aesthetic. It was very clean and beautiful, but 40 US dollars is a lot for Canadians. That's about $60 a month. And at that time, I wasn't selling enough courses to even justify paying that amount of money. And what I realized was I already had a tool that I could have been using that I had already paid a one-time fee for many, many years ago, and that was Thrivecart. So now I'm using Thrivecart to host all of my courses. It's a one-time fee of like $400 or $500, and I don't have to think about it again. I can host all of my digital products, all of my courses there. They have awesome checkout pages that are easy to use. Things line up seamlessly with ConvertKit, which is the email provider that I'm currently using. When I realized I was paying for this monthly subscription when I already had tools that I didn't need to pay for that could do the job and were easy to use, it was a no-brainer. It's like, why really pay for things that you don't need? The next thing that I stopped wasting money on is fancy equipment. When I record my YouTube videos, the camera that I'm using right now, I've had this camera for about 15 years. It's a Canon EOS 70D. It's a big clunky camera. It doesn't have all of the modern functionality. I can't set up Wi-Fi on it when I'm recording in video. The resolution is quite small on it. However, it's a camera that I already have. It's a camera that I already own. It's a camera that I know how to use. And to go spend another $1,000 on a camera, yes, of course, it would be nice to have some of the modern functionality and features of a newer camera. There are probably things that would make my life a little simpler, but at this point, I just can't justify spending or dropping another, $800 to $1,000 when I already have a tool that does the job good enough. And that's kind of my motto, is good enough is good enough. It doesn't need to be perfect. Done is better than perfect. Why spend all of this money on fancy equipment and tools when we have tools like this in our pocket that do the job well, and when that money can be better spent elsewhere in our business? Another thing that I don't waste money on in my business is outsourcing before you're ready. Back in the day, I used to be a virtual assistant. There was a couple of years in my business where I marketed myself as a virtual assistant. I had clients, other business owners. I was working behind the scenes in their business. And in some of those cases, I had clients who were not ready for a virtual assistant. When I showed up in their business, there was no back-end organization. There was no clarity about what the tasks or the roles for me were. So there was a lot of time, money, and energy wasted on my part, but also on my client's part, trying to get me up to speed in terms of like how their business was run or how they like things done. And I could only do so much without really having input from my client to let me know what was needed in their business. If you're not clear about what your goals are or what the direction is of your business or who you're serving or what your marketing plan looks like for the year, then I can't make those decisions for you. This also kind of goes back to the branding piece and why I would recommend waiting before you hire someone to do your branding unless you are uber clear on what your brand is about, what your strategy is about, what your whole vibe and energy is about. Otherwise, it tends to be a huge waste of money because there's a disconnect between what it is that you want and what the designer or the virtual assistant or the person that you're outsourcing to can create, because they're going on like limited information. They're going on where you are now, and that could very easily change in a couple of months or even in 6 months, and now you've spent all of this money and there's really no clear direction for where you want that person that you've outsourced to go. So before you spend any money on outsourcing anything, what I would recommend is maybe trying to, if you can barter services with somebody, maybe you know somebody and you can exchange services, or just starting out with small contractors. Fiverr is a really great resource for finding small contractors to do smaller tasks for you that don't require too much from you, but would also be helpful to get off of your plate. So start small before you go and outsource a lot of your business to another person, just to avoid spending hundreds or thousands of dollars on services on something that might hold you up in your business versus moving you ahead. Another thing that I stopped wasting money on in my business is tools that overcomplicate things. There are so many new tools and systems and things coming out in the marketplace that look beautiful, that look like they might even simplify your life, but so often they don't. Honestly, you end up wasting so much time switching all your systems over to use a new tool, and you find that it's no better than what you already had, or in some cases, it's even worse. Trust me, you do not need the fancy tools. You don't need to sign up for Notion and learn how to use Notion and set up these beautiful aesthetic dashboards when Google Docs and Google Calendar are working just perfectly fine for you. In fact, what I have noticed is when I have switched and tried to get on board with all of these fancy tools, all of these new things that influencers and content creators are promoting, I've tried them on in my business. I've tried to implement their systems. They never work. They never last. They never stick. As I already said in this video, the best system for you and for your business is the one that you're going to use. It's the one that you're going to stick with. It's going to be the one that's the easiest for you just to show up and start using on a day-to-day basis. Don't overcomplicate things. You don't need all the fancy tools. Forget shiny object syndrome and focus on just simplifying and really attuning to what is going to be the best system for you. I guarantee it's going to be the simplest. And the ninth thing that I have stopped wasting money on is fancy, useless website plugins that just slow your website down. They create so much lag. They are often beautiful and fancy, but they really provide no true benefit to your audience or the person visiting your website. Fancy animations, plugins, lots of CSS and coding on your website might seem like a good idea because you can really bring out the vibe and the visual aesthetic that it is that you're going for. But what I've honestly found is not only does it slow things down, it can be really hard and frustrating for the end user, your visitor who's ever coming to your website, to navigate your website. One of my favorite creators who I love to follow uses a lot of plugins and fancy animations on her website, and I find it so frustrating to try to navigate. In fact, the constant scroll of the blog posts and everything moving quickly and flashing, I find it overwhelming, overstimulating, and very dizzying. And she's probably not even aware that it's having an opposite impact of what it was that she was trying to achieve by adding in all of the CSS and all of these plugins and code to begin with. Instead of all of these fancy animations and plugins that just bog your website down, focus on clear messaging and functional design instead. Your readers, the people visiting your website, are going to appreciate the simplicity and the easy navigation and are really going to be able to focus on your message versus being distracted by all of these things bouncing around the page that are just distracting from the message and diminishing the overall experience for your readers. Now that we've come to the end of this video, I hope that you are feeling inspired to do an audit of your own expenses and to look at where can you simplify? Where are you paying for things in your business that you no longer need, that are really not adding any benefit to you or for your clients? What can you stop subscribing to, or look at tools and software and systems that you've already have in your business that are working? How can you consolidate to make things less expensive for you? Being a business owner is expensive, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to make you broke, especially when you're building your business up. You don't need all of these fancy tools. You don't need to pay for expensive branding or to be taking $1,000 courses that you're probably never going to finish anyway. Be really honest with yourself. This is a good time to be relentless, to be cutthroat, and to just set a boundary that you're not going to waste money on things you no longer need. So now that you've heard some of the things that I've stopped wasting money on in my business, I want to know, what do you want to stop wasting money on? What are you going to say no to in your business? Where can you consolidate? Let me know, leave a comment below. And if you liked this video, please subscribe so that you can be notified every time I upload a new video on slow, intentional business content to help you grow your business in alignment with your values. Keep watching for the next video where I walk you through my one-page marketing plan that helps you grow your business with ease, fulfillment, joy, and simplicity in 2025. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next week.